Welcome to another deep dive. We're tackling Jen Sincero's You Are a Badass today.
Oh, nice. A classic.
I'm so excited to dig into this one because it's so full of energy and humor.
Right. It's not your typical self-help book.
Exactly. And you recommended it, so I'm really curious to hear your take on it.
Well, for me, it was like a breath of fresh air. A lot of self-help books can be a bit dry or preachy.
Totally.
But this one is so relatable and funny. It feels like you're having a conversation with a friend.
Yeah, it's like Jen is right there with you, cheering you on.
Exactly. So where do you want to start?
Well, one of the things that really struck me right off the bat was this idea of subconscious sabotage.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
Have you ever noticed that? Like, you set a goal for yourself and then you kind of, like, unconsciously sabotage your own efforts?
All the time. It's like there's a part of me that's afraid of success or something.
Right. And Jen explains how a lot of this stems from our childhood experiences and the beliefs we've picked up along the way.
She has that great analogy of the bowling accident, right?
Yeah, where she slips on the lane because of a past mishap.
Exactly. And it just shows how these deeply ingrained beliefs can impact us in ways we don't even realize.
It's like having these invisible tripwires that we keep tripping over.
Totally. And the book really emphasizes the importance of becoming aware of these patterns, like shining a light on those subconscious gremlins
I love that analogy.
so we can start to understand how they're affecting us.
And then hopefully start to rewire those beliefs.
Right. And she offers some really practical tools for doing that, like the leftover beliefs exercise.
Oh, yeah. That one's really powerful.
Have you tried it?
I haven't yet, but it's definitely on my list.
It's pretty eye-opening. It can really help you uncover some of those hidden beliefs that might be holding you back.
Another thing that really resonated with me was the emphasis on living in the now.
Oh, absolutely. Such a crucial concept.
It's something that so many people talk about, but it can be so hard to actually do.
Right. Our minds are constantly jumping ahead to the future or dwelling on the past.
Exactly. But Jen makes a really compelling case for why being present is so important for our happiness and well-being.
She says it's like the only place where true joy and creativity exist.
I love that.
And she offers some really practical tips for cultivating presence.
Like what?
Well, one of the things she suggests is focusing on your senses, like really tuning into what you can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch in this moment.
It's a good way of grounding yourself in the present.
Exactly. And she also talks about the importance of letting go of judgment and just accepting things as they are.
Which can be really challenging, especially for those of us who are like perfectionists or overthinkers.
Totally. But it's so freeing when you can actually do it.
And it's like suddenly you have all this extra mental space and energy.
Right. And it allows you to be more creative and spontaneous.
And just enjoy life more.
Exactly. Now, the book doesn't shy away from discussing fear, does it?
No, it definitely doesn't.
And Jen has a pretty bold perspective on it,
She calls fear a liar.
which is such a powerful statement.
It is. It's like she's saying, don't believe everything you think.
Exactly. Because so often, our fears are based on illusions or distortions,
Right. And they keep us stuck in our comfort zones.
preventing us from going after what we truly want.
One of my favorite parts of the book is the story she tells about being trapped in a case.
Oh, yeah, that was intense.
It's such a vivid illustration of how we can choose courage over fear, even when we feel terrified.
She talks about that moment of realizing that she had a choice to give in, to panic, or to focus on finding a way out.
Right. And it's like that in any situation where we're facing our fears.
We always have a choice.
It's about taking control of our thoughts and choosing to focus on what we want rather than what we're afraid of,
And sometimes that means taking a leap of faith.
even when we don't know what's on the other side.
Exactly. And that can be really scary. But it's also where the magic happens.
That's so true. Now, another thing I love about this book is its emphasis on gratitude.
Oh, yes. Gratitude is huge.
It's not just about feeling good. Jen argues that gratitude is like a magnet for attracting abundance.
It's like the more you focus on what you're grateful for, the more good things you attract into your life.
It's about shifting your perspective from scarcity to abundance.
Exactly. And that's so powerful because when you feel abundant, you're more likely to take risks, pursue your dreams, and create the life you want.
Do you have any gratitude practices?
I do. I like to keep a gratitude journal.
Me too.
It's so helpful for shifting your focus to the positive.
And it's amazing how Like, even on the toughest days, you can always find something to be grateful for.
Totally. It's about training your mind to look for the good.
And it's so contagious. When you're feeling grateful, it just kind of radiates outwards.
Yeah, it's like you become a beacon of positivity.
Exactly. Now, Jen also talks about the connection between gratitude and manifesting, which is a concept that can sometimes feel a bit woo-woo,
I know what you mean.
but she presents it in a really grounded and practical way.
She's not saying you just have to wish for things and they'll magically appear.
Right. She emphasizes that manifesting is about aligning your energy with what you want to create.
And then taking inspired action towards those goals.
It's like gratitude creates the fertile ground for your dreams to take root.
Exactly. And then you have to nurture those dreams with action.
And trust that the universe has your back.
It's a powerful combination.
It is. Now, another message that really resonated with me was the emphasis on embracing imperfection,
Oh, yes. That's a big one.
especially in today's world where we're constantly bombarded with images of perfection.
Right. Social media can be such a breeding ground for comparison and self-doubt.
Totally. But Jen reminds us that perfection is an illusion, and it's actually a major roadblock to happiness and success.
She says, done is better than perfect.
I love that.
Because perfectionism keeps us stuck in a cycle of procrastination and self-criticism.
It's like we're so afraid of making a mistake that we never actually do anything.
Right. But Jen encourages us to just go for it, even if it's messy or imperfect.
She even tells this hilarious story about faking her qualifications for her first job.
Oh, yeah. That was a good one.
It's such a great example of how taking action, even when you're not fully prepared, can open doors to incredible opportunities.
It's about trusting yourself and your ability to figure things out as you go.
And being willing to learn and grow from your mistakes.
Exactly. Now, speaking of incredible opportunities, the book also emphasizes the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people.
Oh, yeah. Your tribe.
Jen calls them badasses.
People who are positive, driven, and passionate about life.
Exactly. And she believes that the people we spend time with have a profound impact on our energy, our beliefs, and our overall well-being.
It's like having a cheerleading squad for your dreams.
Totally. She even shares her own experience of being in a band called Crotch to illustrate this point.
That's such a great story.
It's about how the right company can fuel passion and progress.
And how losing yourself in something you love, surrounded by people who share your passion, can lead to amazing creative breakthroughs.
It's about finding your tribe and letting them lift you up.
That's such a beautiful image. Now, another theme that runs throughout the book is the power of decision.
Oh, yeah. Decision is key.
Jen argues that true transformation requires decisive action.
It's not enough to just want things, right? You have to make a decision and commit to it fully.
Exactly. And she uses the story of Henry Ford's determination to create the V8 engine to illustrate this point.
Oh, wow. That's a great example.
Despite his engineers insisting it was impossible, he refused to give up on his vision.
It's a testament to the power of unwavering commitment.
When you truly believe in something and you're willing to put in the work, anything is possible.
So inspiring. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to ask you a question.
Okay, sure.
Why do you think this book has resonated with so many people?
That's a great question. I think it's because it offers a fresh and empowering perspective on personal growth.
In what way?
Well, it's not about denying our flaws or pretending
Yeah.
to be perfect. It's about embracing our whole selves, the good, the bad, and the messy.
And it's about recognizing that we have the power to create the life we want.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions.
And it's about doing it all with a sense of humor and self-compassion.
I think that's what makes this book so unique and so appealing. It's like Jen is giving us permission to be ourselves, to screw up, to learn, and to grow.
And to have fun along the way.
Exactly. So before we move on to part 2 of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder. If you truly believed that you were a badass, what would you do differently? What dreams would you dare to chase?
Ooh, that's a good one to think about. You know, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?
Right. It's about tapping into that inner badass and letting it loose.
Exactly. So getting back to the book.
Yeah. What else stood out to you?
Well, one thing I loved was how Jen breaks down these seemingly complex concepts into bite-sized pieces that are easy to understand and apply.
Totally.
Yeah.
She's got this knack for making self-help feel accessible.
Right. Like it's not just for, gurus or spiritual masters.
It's for everyone.
Exactly. And one of the things she talks about that really resonated with me is the importance of setting boundaries.
Oh, yeah. Boundaries are huge.
especially for those of us who are people pleasers or who tend to overextend ourselves.
Right. We end up feeling resentful and burnt out.
Exactly. But Jen reminds us that it's okay to say no, to prioritize our own needs, and to protect our energy.
It's about honoring ourselves and our worth.
And it's not selfish. It's actually essential for our well-being.
Totally. When we have strong boundaries, we can show up more fully for ourselves and for others.
Right. We can be more present, more loving, more generous.
And we can avoid that whole resentment and burnout cycle.
Exactly. Now, another thing I appreciated about this book was its emphasis on taking action.
Oh yeah, action is key.
It's not enough to just read about self-help or visualize our goals. We actually have to get out there and do something.
Right. It's about taking those inspired actions that align with our desires.
Exactly. And Jen reminds us that it's okay to start small. Don't try to change everything overnight.
Just take one step at a time.
Exactly. Consistency is more important than intensity.
So true. It's about building those positive habits over time.
And celebrating those small wins along the way.
Absolutely. Now, one concept that I found really intriguing was the idea of surrendering.
Oh, yeah. Surrender can be a tricky one.
I think a lot of people misunderstand it as giving up or becoming passive.
Right. But Jen presents it as this, powerful act of letting go of control and trusting in the universe.
It's about recognizing that we don't always have all the answers or know the best path forward.
And that's okay. Sometimes the best thing we can do is surrender to the flow of life.
And trust that we're being guided and supported.
Exactly. And that can be really hard, especially for those of us who are, control freaks.
Totally.
Yeah.
But there's so much freedom and peace to be found in surrender.
It's about letting go of the struggle and allowing things to unfold naturally.
And it doesn't mean we're not taking action.
Right. It's about taking inspired action, but also being open to the possibility that the universe might have a different plan.
And that plan might be even better than what we originally envisioned.
Exactly. It's about trusting in the bigger picture.
Now, another thing I loved about this book was its emphasis on self-love.
Oh, yes. Self-love is everything.
Jen argues that it's the foundation for all other forms of love.
If we don't love ourselves, how can we truly love anyone else?
Right. And she encourages us to treat ourselves with the same kindness and compassion that we would offer to a dear friend.
It's about recognizing our inherent worthiness.
And letting go of those negative self-judgments.
Exactly. And she offers some really practical tips for cultivating self-love.
Like what?
Well, one thing she suggests is practicing positive self-talk, noticing those negative thoughts and consciously replacing them with more loving and affirming ones.
It's like giving our inner critic a makeover.
Totally. And she also talks about the importance of taking care of ourselves, both physically and emotionally.
That means things like eating nourishing foods, moving our bodies, getting enough sleep, and engaging in activities that bring us joy.
It's about prioritizing our well-being.
Because when we feel good, we're better able to show up for ourselves and for others.
Exactly. Now, another aspect of self-love that Jen touches on is forgiveness.
Oh, yeah. Forgiveness is huge.
Both forgiving ourselves and forgiving others.
It's about letting go of those past hurts and resentments.
And recognizing that everyone makes mistakes.
Including ourselves.
Exactly. And forgiveness doesn't mean condoning bad behavior.
It's about releasing ourselves from the burden of carrying those negative emotions.
And it's not always easy, but it's so liberating when we can actually do it.
It's like we're freeing up all this energy that we can then use to create something positive in our lives.
Exactly. Now, one of my favorite chapters in the book is Loosen Your Bone, Wilma.
Oh, I love that chapter.
It's so funny and insightful.
It's about Jen's experience traveling in India.
And how she learned to let go of control and embrace the unexpected.
Right. She talks about how things rarely go according to plan in India, but people seem to just roll with it.
And they find joy in the chaos.
It's a great reminder that sometimes the best laid plans go awry.
And that's okay. In fact, it can be an opportunity for adventure and growth.
It's about loosening our grip and allowing life to surprise us.
And finding the humor in the absurdity of it all.
Because life can be pretty ridiculous sometimes.
Totally. Now, before we move on, I want to touch on one more important point from the book, the idea of living a life on purpose.
Oh, yes. Purpose is so crucial.
Jen encourages us to figure out what lights us up, what makes us feel alive, and to find ways to bring that into our work and our lives.
It's about discovering our unique gifts and talents.
And using them to make a positive impact on the world.
And it doesn't have to be this big, grand thing.
Right. It can be something small.
It's about finding purpose in the everyday moments.
In the connections we make, in the work we do, in the way we choose to show up in the world.
It's about living with intention and awareness.
And it's about making a difference, no matter how small.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder. What is your purpose? What lights you up? What makes you feel alive?
That's something worth exploring, you know? What are we passionate about? What gets us out of bed in the morning?
It's like finding that spark that ignites our soul.
And it's not always easy, you know? Sometimes we lose sight of it amidst the chaos of everyday life.
But I think it's always there, waiting to be rediscovered.
Like a little ember just waiting for the right kindling to catch fire.
And sometimes all it takes is a little shift in perspective.
Right. Or a new experience or a chance encounter.
And suddenly we're reminded of what truly matters to us.
And it can be so transformative, you know? It's like our whole life comes into focus.
We start making different choices, pursuing different paths.
We become more aligned with our authentic selves.
Now, as we wrap up this deep dive into You Are a Badass, I want to leave you with a final thought from the book that really resonated with me.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Jen writes, "Life is an illusion created by your perception, and it can be changed the moment you choose to change it."
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we're not just victims of our circumstances.
Exactly. We have the power to choose our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions.
And those choices shape our reality.
So if you're not happy with your current reality, choose to change it. Challenge those limiting beliefs. Step outside of your comfort zone and start creating a life that you truly love.
Because you have the power to make it happen.
It's been such a pleasure exploring this book with you.
Likewise, I feel so inspired.
Me too. And to you, our listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into You Are a Badass. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and are feeling empowered to create a life that is truly badass.
Like and subscribe for more deep dives.